Several years ago, when I first started thinking more about starting my own business, I really wanted to grow native plants. And I was living in a place that I could do that, but my husband and I decided to move back into Fort Wayne. And because we're constricted in space and land, it really wasn't feasible for me to actually grow native plants to sell to the public. So everything kind of took a little bit of a twist, and I started growing more food and really trying to incorporate my love of native plants into the space that I'm utilizing to grow food. I actually lived downtown in West Central for a really long time when I first moved to Fort Wayne, for about 15 years. And one year my neighbor and I decided that we wanted to put raised beds in our backyard, and our landlord let us do that. So we installed a couple of raised beds, we put in a little pond, did some other landscaping in some other areas, but we were really trying to grow food in those two raised beds. I was working at a local nursery at the time too, and it just really fed my love for gardening. And it really has just expanded since then over time into trying to really get more functional gardening spaces versus just aesthetically pleasing gardening spaces. Really, when we moved into this space in the fall of 2015, I was just getting more and more interested in soil health and using organic practices, and I wanted to try to create an ecosystem that was highly functioning and diverse. So I just really started doing lots of research on how a lot of the big farmers are doing things, how they are using cover crops, rotating crops, keeping the soil covered, all of those things to try to increase the health of the soil overall. So really since probably 2016, 2017, I've really been trying to stay, I guess, more focused on the health of the soil, which I think increases the health of the plants and the ecosystem overall. One of the biggest ones is just making sure that we have a lot of plants growing and a lot of roots in the ground. Trying to make sure that we're keeping the soil covered, whether it's with mulch or with plant growth to help keep the soil shaded. The roots help keep the soil locked into place so it doesn't run off and we're not losing any of our amendments or fertilizers or anything like that. I do crop rotations as well, and I intercrop so that I'm growing a lot in my rows. And the idea then is that I don't have a lot of time or space in between crops being in the ground, so that there's always something growing in those spots. I do some cover cropping. I use buckwheat pretty frequently. It's one of my favorites. It also attracts beneficial insects and pollinators. And in the late summer, I often plant like a radish and oat mix that gets killed off in the winter and then provides a mulch over the soil through the winter as well, and just increasing the organic matter that we have on our soil as well. I also use a lot of native plants, just kind of as a buffer around the gardens to help filter the water that's coming through our property, and also to attract a lot of beneficial insects and pollinators to try to help keep the ecosystem balanced, if you will. Overwhelmingly positive. I have people stop by on their bikes, stop by when they're walking. I had a gentleman in his car the other day. People are very complimentary and often really surprised at the amount of stuff that we can grow in here and what we can grow in here. So overall, the last few years, I think it's been really great. I've met a lot of people in the neighborhood just because I'm out here working in the garden and they want to stop and chat about it. So yeah, overall it's been really positive. There's a lot going on in our environment, and it often feels like there are things that we can't do to make a difference. And I strongly feel like there are things that can be done. And so I just want to be, as somebody put it to me once, an active environmentalist. I can send checks to places and they can plant trees, or I can plant trees at my house. There's just so much that can be done here. I feel like it's my responsibility as a steward of this space to try to make it as healthy and functional and have it be a connection to the greater environment, which I think it can absolutely do. And I see the results of that pretty frequently, whether we have monarchs coming in or we have bees coming to the flowers. I see all those things firsthand, and it just makes me want to continue to do more. It becomes an addiction, I think. It just can only get better and better. Not to get frustrated. Lots of things can happen. Things change from year to year, whether it's problems with plants or problems with insects or the rain or the temperatures. All kinds of things are going to fluctuate, which can make gardening both really fun and also slightly frustrating. But I often like to think of it as a problem-solving mechanism too. Like, so many things can happen in the garden that I have to try to figure out a way to remediate in some way, that it can be kind of liberating, gives me more confidence when I can figure out solutions to some of these problems, and solve them and be able to see the benefit or the results of that right away, definitely. And there are so many positive things that you get once you conquer those obstacles, small and big. Whether it's a juicy ripe tomato, some fresh basil that you can make into pesto, garlic that you can store through the winter, you start to reap all of the rewards that a garden can provide.